remember the exact moment my parents looked me in the eye and told me I was worth nothing. Not in those words, of course. They were too polite for that, too careful. But the message was clear. We were sitting in the living room of the house I grew up in. The house with the creaky third step on the staircase. The house where I'd spent every Christmas morning, every birthday, every milestone of my childhood. My father sat in his leather chair, the one he always called his throne. My mother perched on the edge of the sofa, her hands folded neatly in her lap like she was about to deliver a rehearsed speech. My sister Emma sat beside them, glowing, always glowing. "We've made a decision," my father began, his voice heavy with false gravity, as if he was doing something noble. "About the future of the family assets." I felt my stomach tighten. I didn't know why yet, but something in the air felt wrong. The way they were all looking at me, or rather, not looking at me. "Your sister is going to inherit the house," he continued, "and the business. We're also transferring the investment accounts to her name." The words hung in the air like smoke, thick, suffocating. I looked at Emma. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She just sat there, playing with her engagement ring, that same ring our parents had helped her fiancé buy. "What about me?" I asked. My voice sounded small, even to myself. My mother finally spoke, her tone gentle but firm, like she was explaining something to a child. "Sweetheart, Emma has always been more responsible. She has a family starting. She needs stability. You've always been so independent, so free-spirited. We know you'll be fine on your own." Free-spirited. That was code for "you've always disappointed us." Independent. That meant we don't want to invest in you. "You're giving her everything?" I said, still trying to process it. "The house we grew up in, the business Dad built, all the money. It's what's best for the family," my father said, his tone final. End of discussion. I looked around that room, at the faces of the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and I realized something that would change me forever. I was never part of their family. Not really. I was just the spare, the backup, the one they tolerated while they poured all their love, all their resources, all their faith into Emma. The golden child. And I was nothing. The weeks after that meeting were the darkest of my life. I moved out within a month, not because they asked me to, but because I couldn't stand to be in that house anymore. Every corner reminded me that I didn't belong, that I never had. I found a tiny studio apartment on the edge of the city, the kind of place where the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbor's entire life. The pipes rattled, the heating barely worked, but it was mine, the first thing that was ever truly mine. Emma called a few times in those first weeks. "Are you okay?" she'd ask, her voice dripping with false concern. "I didn't ask for this, you know. They just decided, but she took it, didn't she? She took the house, the business, the money. She took everything and said thank you." I stopped answering her calls. My parents didn't call at all. I spent those first months in a haze. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. in that freezing apartment, work my 2 part-time jobs, one at a coffee shop, one doing freelance graphic design, and collapse into bed at midnight. I lived on instant noodles and black coffee. I wore the same 3 outfits on rotation because I couldn't afford anything new. But something was building inside me, something hard and sharp and unbreakable. They thought I couldn't make it on my own. They thought I needed them. I would show them exactly what I was capable of. Every rejection letter I received, every no from a potential client, every penny I had to count twice, it all became fuel. I stopped seeing obstacles. I started seeing stepping stones. I taught myself everything: web development, digital marketing, business strategy. I'd stay up until 3 a.m. watching tutorials, reading articles, absorbing everything I could about how to build something from nothing. Because that's what I was starting with, nothing, and somehow, that made me dangerous. My first real break came 18 months after I was cut off. I'd been doing freelance work for small businesses, building websites, managing social media accounts. The pay was inconsistent, but I was learning. More importantly, I was building a reputation. One of my clients was a small organic skincare company run by a woman named Rachel. She was passionate but overwhelmed, trying to do everything herself. I redesigned her entire online presence, created a marketing strategy, and helped her reach customers she never knew existed. Her sales tripled in 3 months. She told everyone she knew about me. And suddenly, I wasn't scrambling for clients anymore. They were coming to me. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I stopped freelancing. I started an agency. I called it Apex Digital. The name felt right, sharp, ambitious, pointing upward. It was just me at first. Me and my laptop in that tiny studio apartment, taking calls while sitting on my second-hand couch, pretending I had a team behind me. "We'd love to take on your project. I'd say with complete confidence, "Let me check with my team and get back to you with a proposal." Then I'd hang up and do everything myself. Strategy, design, implementation, client communication. All of it. I worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. There were nights I fell asleep at my desk, still wearing yesterday's clothes. There were mornings I cried in the shower from exhaustion, but I never stopped. Within 6 months, I had enough clients to hire my first employee, a designer named Marcus who was just as hungry as I was. Then a copywriter, then a project manager. We moved into a small office space. Nothing fancy, but it had windows, real windows, and a door with my company name on it. I stood outside that door the day we moved in, staring at those words. Apex Digital. I'd built this with my own hands, my own mind, my own relentless refusal to give up. No family money, no inheritance, no safety net. Just me. And I was just getting started. The next 2 years were a blur of growth. Apex Digital became known for one thing: we delivered results. While other agencies overpromised and underdelivered, we did the opposite. We set realistic expectations and then exceeded them. Word spread. Small businesses became medium businesses. Medium businesses became corporations. Our client roster started including names that made people raise their eyebrows. I hired strategically. I didn't want people who just needed a job. I wanted people who wanted to build something. People who understood what it meant to be hungry. We moved into a bigger office, then a bigger one. Our team grew to 15, then 30, then 50. I started getting invited to speak at conferences, to write articles for industry publications, to consult for companies 10 times our size. And through it all, I never forgot where I came from. That studio apartment with the rattling pipes. That moment in my parents' living room when they told me I was worth nothing. I kept a photo on my desk, not of my family, of that first tiny office with the window, to remind myself how far I'd come, and how much further I could go. I dated occasionally, but I never let anyone get too close. I'd learned that lesson early. The people who were supposed to love you unconditionally were the ones who could hurt you the most. Better to build walls than to risk that pain again. My team became my family. We celebrated wins together. We worked through losses together. When Marcus got married, I was at his wedding. When our head of client services had a baby, we all chipped in for the most elaborate gift basket you've ever seen. These people chose to be here, chose to build with me. That meant more than blood ever had. By year 4, Apex Digital was generating 8 figures in revenue. We had clients on 3 continents. We'd been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, and Entrepreneur magazine. I bought a penthouse in the city, sleek, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked everything I'd built. Some nights I'd stand at those windows with a glass of wine, looking down at the lights below, and I'd think about that living room, that leather chair, that moment when they decided I wasn't worth investing in, and I'd smile, because I'd invested in myself, and the returns were beyond anything they could have given me. The first contact came on a Tuesday. I was in a strategy meeting when my assistant knocked on the conference room door. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, looking uncomfortable, "but there's someone on the phone who says it's urgent. Family matter." My stomach dropped. I hadn't spoken to my parents in over 4 years. Emma had tried reaching out a few times, but I'd made it clear I wasn't interested in rekindling anything. "Tell them I'll call back," I said, but the calls kept coming. 3 times that day, 4 times the next, always from my mother's number. Finally, I answered. "Hello?" My voice was cold, professional, the voice I used with difficult clients. "Oh, sweetheart." Finally, my mother's voice cracked with emotion. "I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy. What do you want?" There was a pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end, preparing herself. "It's your father," she said. "He's sick, very sick. And Emma's husband left her. She's trying to run the business, but it's failing. Everything is falling apart, and she trailed off. "You what?" I pressed, my voice flat. "We need help," she whispered. "We need your help." I stood at my office window, phone pressed to my ear, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pain. Just emptiness. "I see," I said. "Can you come home?" My mother asked, and there was genuine desperation in her voice. "Please, we're family. We need to figure this out together." Family. That word tasted bitter in my mouth. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. I didn't call back for 3 weeks. When I finally drove up to my childhood home, I barely recognized it. The paint was peeling. The garden my mother had been so proud of was overgrown with weeds. One of the shutters hung at an angle like a broken wing. The house looked tired, defeated. I sat in my car for a long moment before getting out my car. A sleek black Tesla that cost more than my parents had probably spent on vehicles in their entire lives. The irony wasn't lost on me. My mother opened the door before I could knock. She looked older, so much older. Her hair had gone completely gray. The lines around her eyes had deepened into crevices. "You came," she said, and there were tears in her eyes. I didn't hug her. I just nodded and stepped inside. The house felt different. Smaller somehow. Or maybe I was just bigger now. Bigger than this place. Bigger than these people who'd tried to define me. My father was in his chair, the throne, but he looked nothing like the king I remembered. He was thin, frail, with an oxygen tube under his nose. His hands shook as he tried to raise them in greeting. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice weak. Emma sat on the sofa. She looked exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, no glow. She looked like someone who'd been drowning for a very long time. "Hi," she said quietly. I sat across from them, crossing my legs, waiting. My mother began the speech she'd clearly prepared. The business was failing. Emma had tried her best, but she didn't have the skills to run it. The medical bills were piling up. They'd taken a second mortgage on the house. They were behind on payments. Everything they'd given Emma, everything they'd chosen her to have instead of me, was crumbling. "We were hoping," my father said, his voice barely above a whisper, "that you might be willing to help us. Maybe invest in the business. Or help him restructure things. We've read about your success. We're so proud of you." Proud, that word almost made me laugh. Where was this pride 4 years ago? I asked calmly. The room went silent. "When you sat me down in this exact room and told me Emma was responsible and I was just free-spirited? When you gave her everything and gave me nothing? Were you proud of me then?" "We made a mistake," my mother said, tears streaming down her face now. "We see that now. We were wrong. But we're family. Doesn't that mean something?" I looked at each of them. My father, who'd sat in that chair like a king and decided I wasn't worthy. My mother, who'd smiled and justified my dismissal. Emma, who'd accepted everything without question. Family. I stood up and walked to the window. The same window where I used to sit as a child, dreaming about who I'd become. I'd become someone they couldn't have imagined. Someone they couldn't have created, even if they'd tried. "I'm going to tell you what I've learned," I said, my back still to them. "When you have nothing, you have two choices. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it forge you into something stronger than you ever could have been with everything handed to you." I turned to face them. "You gave Emma everything. The house, the business, the money, the message that she was valuable, that she was worthy of investment. And look what happened. She had no reason to fight, no reason to prove anything. So when things got hard, she crumbled, because she never had to build any real strength." Emma was crying now, her shoulders shaking. "You gave me nothing," I continued. "And you know what? That was the greatest gift you could have given me, because it taught me that I didn't need you, that I didn't need anyone, that I could build something bigger and better than anything you could have handed me." My father tried to speak, but I held up my hand. "I built an empire, a real one, not a family business that you hand down because of blood. An empire I earned. Every client, every contract, every dollar, I earned it. And it made me powerful in ways you'll never understand." "So you won't help us?" my mother asked, her voice breaking. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I could save them. I had the resources. I could pay off the house, restructure the business, make everything comfortable for them again. But that wasn't the lesson they needed to learn. "I'll help," I said finally, and I saw hope light up in their eyes. "But not the way you want me to." I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Marcus, I need you to put together a package. Employment contracts, entry-level positions, training programs. For 3 people. Yes, starting immediately." I hung up and looked at my family. "You want my help? Fine, I'm offering you jobs. At my company. Entry-level positions. You'll work like everyone else works. You'll prove yourselves like everyone else has to prove themselves. Emma, you'll start in our client services department. Learn what it means to actually serve people, to earn their trust. Mom, administrative support. Dad, when you're healthy enough, consulting, but you'll report to people half your age who know more than you do." "You can't be serious," Emma said. "I'm completely serious. You want to be part of what I've built. You do it on my terms. You earn it, just like I had to earn everything I have." "And the house?" my mother asked. "The business. Sell the business. It's failing anyway. Use whatever you get to pay down the debts. As for the house," I paused, letting them sit in the uncertainty. "I'll buy it from you. Fair market value. You can rent it back from me at a reasonable rate. If you make your payments on time, we'll revisit ownership in 5 years. If you prove you can be responsible." The room was silent except for my father's oxygen machine. "Its rhythmic is the only sound." "You're punishing us," Emma finally said, anger creeping into her voice. "No," I said calmly. "I'm teaching you the same lesson you taught me, that nothing in this life is free. That you have to earn your place in the world. That family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when things get hard. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. You have 48 hours to decide, I said without turning back. Take the offer or don't, but don't call me again asking for handouts. Those days are over. They took the offer, all three of them. Emma works in our London office now. She's actually good at client relations when she's not coasting on someone else's name. She calls me every few weeks with updates, and there's something different in her voice now. Something humble, something real. My mother answers phones and manages schedules for our executive team. She's meticulous, organized, and the team loves her. She sends me emails sometimes thanking me. I don't always respond. My father recovered enough to consult part-time. He works with our business strategy division, advising on traditional business models. He reports to a 28-year-old woman who runs circles around him intellectually. It's humbling for him, I think. In a good way. They're paying rent on the house on time, every month. I don't visit, but I watch from a distance, monitoring their progress, seeing if they can actually change. As for me, Apex Digital just acquired to smaller agencies. We're expanding into Asia. My team is over 200 people now, across 6 countries. I stand in my penthouse sometimes, glass of wine in hand, looking out at the city I conquered. And I think about that moment in the living room, that moment when they told me I was worth nothing. They were wrong, but I needed them to be wrong. I needed to be rejected. I needed to have nothing because having nothing taught me everything. It taught me that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself, that the only inheritance worth having is the one you build with your own hands, that empire isn't something someone gives you. It's something you take from the world, piece by piece, through blood and sweat, and relentless, unbreakable will. My parents gave my sister everything. And by giving me nothing, they gave me something far more valuable. They gave me a reason to become unstoppable. Now they work for the empire they refuse to invest in, and every day, they see exactly what they missed out on. Every day, they understand the cost of underestimating me. I don't need their apologies. I don't need their pride. I don't need their approval anymore. I built this for myself, and that's the sweetest victory of all. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about my place in the family. Instead, they taught me that I didn't need a place in their family. I would build my own, and it would be greater than anything they could have imagined. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for giving me nothing, because nothing was exactly what I needed to become everything.